What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Monument Auto. Today marks almost exactly 2 years since I first got the ML63 from Copart, and I wanted to take some time to discuss kind of what it's been like driving the car over the last 2 years and go over some of the maintenance that I've had to do that I haven't shown already on video, and talk about some of the things that I really like about this car and some of the things that I don't like so much. So stay tuned and let's get started. So first off, I've put almost 22,000 miles on the ML63 over the last 2 years, and in general have had no major issues. So there's been no check engine light since that very first check engine light that I talked about in one of the earlier videos, where the car was running a little bit too lean, and it turns out that the PCV valve just needed to be replaced. In the process of diagnosing that, I also replaced the mass airflow sensors and the airbox filters, and ever since that point I have not had a check engine light. I have done some major maintenance services, such as replacing the transmission fluid, flushing the coolant, and recently I replaced the thermostat as well as the auxiliary water pump or coolant pump because it was still cracked from the accident. I've also flushed the brake fluid from when I painted the calipers and had to remove the calipers. So I've done a lot of the kind of more significant fluid changes. And then all the way back to the beginning, I replaced all 4 air springs. It's got new brakes in the rear, new pads and rotors, and new pads on the front. I still have rotors actually that I bought and didn't have to use. But I'll probably be putting those on pretty soon. As far as engine reliability goes, I haven't had any issues with the tune that I got from Weistech Engineering. It's just a stage 1. You can check out one of my other videos to learn more about that. And in fact, the gas mileage actually went up a little bit from the tune, and maybe from running slightly narrower tires, because now I'm on 275s instead of the stock 295s. So over the last 3,000 miles, I've averaged 15.7 miles per gallon, and I do a lot of kind of slow back roads driving to and from work. I'm not doing a lot of highway miles where you can kind of cruise and get that higher gas mileage. So I think that's not bad. I'm pretty sure that's higher than what Mercedes claimed initially back when this car came out in 2007. One of the things I was most concerned about initially when buying this car was the engine and transmission reliability. And so far, both have held up quite well. I actually recently got an oil analysis from Blackstone Laboratories, which you guys may have heard about from other automotive YouTubers. And everything came back clean. I'll show you the report right now. All the numbers were within spec for a vehicle and oil of this mileage and year, and nothing showed any excess wear or any contamination, whether that was either gas in the oil or water in the oil or coolant in the oil. There was nothing to indicate any sort of issue, which I was super happy about. As far as the transmission goes, it's much better from when I initially bought the car and it was shifting hard into 3rd gear. But it still does it when the car is cold, such as first starting to drive it in the winter. That first shift as it goes to 2nd to 3rd is not very smooth. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't call it harsh, but it's not what it should be. And as soon as the car's been driven for a couple minutes, it shifts totally fine, and I'm still able to floor it, and it doesn't slip. It goes into all gears when it's supposed to. It's not, revving too high or anything. And so I'm not really sure what that is. I haven't pursued it because it's really kind of a minor issue for me at this point. And it's been driving like this for 2 years without getting worse, but also without getting better. And so I'm not a transmission expert. I'm not sure exactly what kind of issue that might be or what it means for the transmission, but so far it's been serving me just fine, and so I haven't felt the need to kind of chase down exactly what that harder shift from 2nd to 3rd is, because it's so intermittent. All right, so now I think would be a good time to discuss kind of 3 things that I love about this car and 3 things that I don't like so much about this car. Let's start with the things that I like. So the first thing is the naturally aspirated V8 M156 engine. It has all the power I could ever ask for, really, as far as daily driving goes. It's been reliable for me, and it sounds amazing. Especially with the Weisstech tune. You get those crackles and pops with stepping on the gas. And so I think the engine is definitely one of the things that I love about this car. I have zero complaints about reliability, performance as far as horsepower, torque, and rev range. It goes to 7,000 RPMs, which is really fun to do. I wouldn't change it for anything. The other thing that I really like about this car is the quality of the interior. So especially the seats and like the dashboard, even the door panels, and even as far back as like the rear seats and the trunk. The touches with the aluminum trim, kind of around the air vents, or on the steering wheel or on the pedals, and the selective touches of chrome, like the door handles and on the door panels. I really think it's a kind of a sleek looking interior where it's not too flashy, but it's built with good quality. All the seats are leather, and the dash is stitched leather, and I've had no issues with anything looking super worn or being torn or damaged. The headliner is still great after 14 years. This interior was certainly built with quality and care, and so I love the interior. The only thing that I would change is that obviously the infotainment system, or the little screen in here, is very outdated because it's 14 years old. But I pretty much just use my phone for everything that I'm doing, whether it's Google Maps or listening to music or whatever, so it doesn't really bother me. And the car does have a rear view camera, and so it's not like I feel like I'm missing out on that either. The last thing I really like about the car is the looks, and I'm sure that's kind of controversial. This car certainly isn't like super aggressive, but I've tried to make it a little more aggressive, doing the spacers on the wheels, as well as the black rims and the black headlights and the red calipers, and trying to kind of spice it up a little bit. And I love how it looks. So every time I go out to the parking lot and I see my car, it puts a smile on my face, and to be honest, that's all you can ask for. I think it's unique, and while there are other kind of MLs and GLs on the road, this one certainly stands out with those gigantic kind of wide fender flares in the rear, as well as the wide rims and tires, especially with the spacers. Like it has a nice aggressive stance, and even though I decided not to lower it, as you can see in one of my other videos, I think the car just looks great. It's held up so well given its age. I look at this vehicle compared to others more modern on the road, and it doesn't look that outdated or that worn down or that old to me. And so I'm super happy with kind of how this car's appearance has held up over the years, and there's nothing I would really change about it. All right, let's talk about some of the things that I really don't like about this car. So this first one might be just an issue that my car is having, but I don't love the transmission. Obviously it has that kind of intermittent issue when it's cold, and that it shifts a little bit hard and from second into third. But even besides that, the transmission isn't all that quick or smooth. It feels a little bit clumsy sometimes. And yes, you can kind of manually shift the transmission, and it works well, but it's fallen behind, I guess, compared to what transmissions can do these days, and that's kind of to be expected. I'm not sure how the 7G Tronic transmissions, the 722.9 transmissions in other vehicles typically are. Like, I don't know if people typically like them or not, but I've driven some, like the Porsche Macan S with the PDK transmission, and other cars that have just more modern, quicker, more responsive, smoother transmissions. Even just like a modern F-150 is much smoother compared to this car. And so I think that's the one thing that I notice is kind of lagging behind the rest of the car. And while it's not bad by any means, that's one area that I might change if it weren't thousands and thousands of dollars to change or upgrade. The other thing I don't love about this car, it's kind of expected, and that would be the cost to maintain, which is really not all that much given how reliable the car has been for me, but it's certainly noticeable compared to a non-luxury brand. And I'm sure everyone's telling me like, you're an idiot, you bought a Mercedes, what did you expect? And you're all right. I knew it would be expensive, but if somehow, maintenance was less expensive, that would be amazing, because every time you have to do anything on this car, even just an oil change, especially if you take it to the dealer, it's hundreds of dollars. I mean, I can do an oil change myself for like a little under 100, but it takes 10 quarts of full synthetic oil. And so there's no real getting around the cost of oil. And then if you take it to someone, like I said, especially the dealership, their rates are through the roof, and the cost of an oil change could be easily like $200. And it just adds up. So there's always going to be maintenance to do, and there's always going to be little things to fix here and there. And when you own a car like this, the maintenance you have to be prepared for the cost of maintenance. As part of the cost of ownership and like cost of maintenance, I'm going to throw in the gas mileage to that as well. Obviously, again, it's a big, heavy, naturally aspirated V8 that's 14 years old. So of course the gas mileage isn't going to be amazing, but that's the other thing that I wish was a little better, especially considering these days you can get like a twin turbo AMG that does a lot better on gas than this car. And so I'm finding that despite having like a 22-gallon tank, I'm filling up like almost once a week, and I don't even drive that far for work. Especially also with gas prices, what they are these days, it's gotten to be quite the expense. The last thing I wanted to talk about is kind of the handling of this car. Obviously, it's a 5,000-pound SUV. You shouldn't expect kind of sports car level steering, obviously. But that being said, compared again to newer cars, this car feels like a boat for sure. Going around corners, despite its like active dampening suspension, the ADS system, you can't take them very fast. You're not feeling super controlled. This car is great on the highway, kind of passing cars. You can be cruising at 65, 70 miles an hour, hit the gas, and it still has a long way to go. It picks up quickly with that powerful V8. But this is not what I would call like a backcountry, canyon road car. And so given where technology advancements are these days, that's one of the things that I don't love. I mean, obviously you can try to throw it around back roads, but it's just not really designed for that. When I think of what this car was kind of designed for, I think of the German Autobahn. It's big, it's powerful, it's comfortable, and it's heavy. And so it's not the car you want to take as a weekend canyon road vehicle. So despite talking about some of the things I don't like about this car, I do ultimately love it. Every time I step on the gas, every time I go out in the parking lot and see it, every time I even sit down and put my hands on the steering wheel, I enjoy it. It brings a smile to my face, and I don't want to get rid of this car, despite the maintenance costs and the gas mileage and the handling or transmission. You can't really expect everything out of one car, especially if it's 14 years old. But ultimately, this car is amazing, and I hope you guys have enjoyed kind of hearing my thoughts about it over the last 2 years. I can't believe it's already been 2 years. It feels not that long ago that I was taking this car off the trailer from Copart and kind of crossing my fingers and praying that it would run. And now look where we are. It's really been an amazing project, and I hope to keep just putting time and money into it and making it something special. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.